Okay, you're looking for a limit as h. I would start with the definition. This is the definition of the slope of the tangent line before you start trying to change it. I noticed a lot of you were trying to put 1 over and stuff in the definition. Don't do that. Just try and write it with function notation and then change it. The function is 1 over x. Okay, f of x is 1 over x, so f of 5 plus h is 1 over 5 plus h minus 1 over 5. All of that over h. You're going to have to try and put this together with algebra, common denominator, and so on, right? This is, you need a 5 here, right? You need 5 over 5 plus h, minus 5 plus h over 5 times 5 plus h, correct? Over h, the whole thing. Once you put it all together, I'm maybe writing different steps than you, but it's the same idea. We got 5 minus 5 plus h over 5 plus h over h. If you find it more convenient, if you find it more convenient to get around this complex fraction where it's fractions within fractions, what you could do with the bottom part is just say 1 over h times and then just write the other expression beside it and work with that, and then at the end deal with the h. Do you know what I mean by that? Instead of this, you could just put 1 over h times that whole thing if it's easier to keep track of there, and then start putting that together. It should work out eventually here. 1 over h, and we got on the top of the fraction there we have 5 minus 5 plus h, so we got h over 5 plus h. We have negative h. Yeah, thank you. Important. The slope's going to end up being negative. When you look at the graph, you'll see why it's always negative. The h's cancel. We got limit of, because it still can't sub it in until we change it to this, negative 1 over 25 plus 5h, I guess, if you want to multiply it out. If you want to sub it in now, you can sub it in. Negative 1 over 25, plus 5 times 0. So negative 1 over 25. That's the slope at 5, okay? If you want to check it on your calculator, here's how you can do it. You can put in the function, which is 1 over x. You can go to just zoom. This is, actually we won't see it. Now we'll change the window. Because we got to see what the tangent is at 5, right? So I'm going to change it to now negative 1.7 up to 7.7, and then we can see it. If you get it to draw, you can draw the tangent line. As I said, it's under draw, which is above that, on that button. You can go down to tangent. You have to tell it where you want the tangent, so you have to go to a point and hit enter. I think you can actually enter a number. Let's see, you can. Instead of scrolling there with the cursor, you can just put the number in. And then it draws the tangent there. It's hard to see that it's a tangent, but it is. It's a calculator. It's only going to do, it does well, but it doesn't realize that it's exactly negative 1/25. This is pretty close to 1/25. Negative 0.04. This is just calculator error because it only, I wouldn't trust this function past about 4 or 5 decimal places. You have to kind of interpret it what it gives you, right? Well, do you think it knows everything? It's just calculating it based on some approximation. It's calculating the tangent, kind of like what we're doing. It can't do calculus. What it does is it just takes, if you want the slope at 5, it calculates the slope between 5 and 5.001 or something like that, right? Like it calculates so it's close to what it is, but it's not, it doesn't go through and do limits and stuff. It has a program, it's programmed to just calculate the slope between 2 really close points. If you went through and did it for this, it would be exactly the same, only everywhere that you have a 5, it's going to be an A. It's probably going to be, it shouldn't be any harder to work with, but you're going to end up with negative 1 over A squared. And when you do the third thing here, you're going to do negative 1 over a squared equals negative 1/4. You find a is plus or minus 2. You guys should work on your limits assignment. Really, there's nothing really left to learn in this section. There's some questions, but there's not really much to learn here. That was the original plan.